absolute stud hitter, but there's always that risk when you draft a high school bat. Another example, Matt Manning, he was drafted in 2016 as a high schooler, but he's not even going to be up until mid-2020. And Matt Manning, I would consider for a high schooler, is well above schedule. I mean, he's basically, for the last 2 or 3 years now, he's absolutely dominated at every stop. And yet, it's still going to take him around 4 years to make it to the major league level. I'd say the average time for a high school kid is about 5 to 6 years. So I think the best that we can hope for with Riley Green is 4 years, like Matt Manning. But the thing that kills it, as mentioned before, Mize, Manning, and Feda will all most likely be up next season. And if you follow baseball at all, you know that is going to start their 5-year rookie deal clock. And if Green doesn't make it until 2023, which is, I believe, which is the 4-year plan that I think he can possibly follow, lots of valuable and cheap time of the pitching trio will be gone. Unfortunately, we lost Mr. Mike Ilitch a few years ago now, and the entire spending of the Tigers is just going to plummet. There's not going to be major deals like Prince Fielder or Miguel Cabrera for a while. And, that's not technically bad against new current owner Chris Ilitch, but Mike Ilitch was in a league of his own. He put his heart and soul into the Tigers, so it's going to be tough to retain all the big three when their rookie deals are over, because they're probably all going to be over at around the same time. Because I don't see Matt Manning, Alex Faedo, or Casey Mize coming up all at completely different times. I think they're all going to be up at some point next season. So their clock is going to run out all at the same time. The Tigers are going to need money to extend those guys. And there's no way they're going to be able to probably extend all three of them. So that's a tough thing about drafting Riley Green. Like I said earlier, the Tigers don't have a ton of major league bats. So they're going to be very pitching reliant until Riley Green is ready. So that's one of the biggest, takebacks. They could have drafted college outfielder Hunter Bishop, who I believe is a much more well-rounded and developed player than Green. But what held them back was all of the potential Green possesses. While he hasn't developed speed, power, or average defense yet, the potential is absolutely there. He already has some of the best plate discipline and contact the Tigers have seen in a long time. They just need to find a way to translate his stellar athleticism into power and solid defense. For the defense, it isn't considered terrible right now, but it isn't considered sound either. Green needs to continue to develop his strength and mechanics to get more length and strength on the throw. That's one big thing that I believe is holding him back right now is his arm. The Tigers already have a future piece with little arm strength and cannot afford to have two in the future. Obviously, if you don't know who that is, his initials are CS, and we've talked about him already. But Riley Green's defense just simply isn't there yet. And for a high schooler playing, he's got plenty of time. I'm not really that concerned about the defense. What I'm more concerned about is the power. And it just simply isn't there yet. For a high schooler playing at 315 to 350 foot fences, it's a little bit concerning. And knowing the Tigers, they don't develop a whole lot of power hitters. The last guy I could think of is Nick Castellanos, but they haven't really drafted a guy that can hit 20 to 30 home runs consistently each year. So it's going to be a challenge. They need Riley Green to provide some power. Guys like Daz Cameron, guys like Willie Castro, they're gonna provide some power, but they're not gonna be 3 or 4 hitters. They're gonna be 1, 2, 5, 6, 7 hitters. We need an impact bat that can go in the middle of the lineup, and that's what I was really hoping the Tigers could get with that first pick this season. Riley Green has some of the best contact and line drives I've ever seen. So I think there's just a simple fix. And I'll be the first one to tell you, I am not a huge believer in the launch angle movement that's gone through Major League Baseball, but I think it has to be applied for Green. They need to figure out a way to change his angle without ridding any of his line drives in contact, which is going to be difficult, but if this guy is as good as they say he is, I think there's a chance it could happen. There's a chance we could get a bat with plus power, plus contact, and plus approach. I think that would make this pick worth it, even if we have to wait a few years. I think they could definitely make it worth it. So, while I'm a little bit bummed that the Tigers weren't able to get a big college bat with their 5th pick this season, I don't think it's that big of a deal that they picked Green. At first I did, and a lot of people who listen to this know that I was really unhappy with what happened on day 1 of the draft. But as each day has gone by, I've kind of, softened up to it. So I really do hope Green becomes a big bat in the Tigers system one day. He really needs to be. I think Al Avila's job may be riding on this selection. So basically, because the Tigers took a high schooler with the first round this year, Al Avila is going to really have to hit on the Matt Boyd and Shane Green trades to try to make up for the big hit he lost in the first round. And I guarantee you on future podcasts, I will definitely be getting into that. Different trade scenarios for Green and Boyd, because I really do believe both of them need to be traded. They both have very high value, but I'm not going to go off in a huge tangent about that right now, as we've got plenty more prospects that they just drafted to cover. So moving on. In the second round, with the 47th pick in the 2019 draft, the Tigers selected Nick Quintana, an infielder out of Arizona State. Quintana is the complete opposite of Green. He is a plus defender with plus power. However, the strikeout plays a big part in his game. So where you have Green, who's a big contact, bad defense, great approach guy, you've got Quintana that's big power, very slow, but amazing defense. The only question with Quintana is going to be whether he can adjust to the wood bats. There's a league that lots of young prospects play in at the college level. It's called the Cape Cod League. They use wood bats, and it's a lot of advanced prospects that get put into that. And unfortunately, Quintana didn't do very well. Because if you guys don't know, in college they use metal bats compared to wood, but in the Cape Cod they use wood. So his success didn't really translate as well as people thought it was going to be. But, after that, he went and played a great season, another great season in college this season, and it was enough to convince the Tigers to draft him. He still projects to have plus power, and I think that's going to be the name of the game for Quintana. If he can bring good defense and power while getting on base at a solid clip, he will be a very good pick by the Tigers. And heck, it'll be nice to finally get good defense at the hot corner for a change. I mean, even with Candelario, he had a really rough year last year defensively, but got better this year. I'm still not solely convinced that he's going to be a plus third baseman long term. Quintana, he's going to be there, and obviously the last 10 years, the Tigers haven't had much help there. Obviously with Nick Castellanos, who was so bad they had to turn him into a right fielder, and Miguel Cabrera, who was forced to play there when they signed Prince Fielder. So Quintana, if he can make it to the major leagues, will definitely change the pace and become a very, very good third baseman defensively. Last year in college, he hit .342, which is about average for the picks the Tigers made this year, with an OBP of .462, which is very, very, very high, and a .626 slugging percentage, all equaling out to be a magnificent 1.088 OPS. So he's a hitter. He's gonna be a good hitter in the major leagues, but he just has to focus on making more contact. And I believe he can be a good player. I mean, the Tiger, if you can be a good defending third baseman, I'm sure you'll make it in the league, especially if you have a little bit of pop. That's basically what the prototypical third baseman is. Good defense, solid pop. And I think that's exactly what Nick Quintana will be. So moving on again with the third round pick in the 2019 draft, the Tigers selected Infielder Andre Lipschitz, and I'm not 100% sure if I'm saying that correctly, but he's a solid infielder that they picked. You will begin to see a trend here, as Lipschitz is another big college bat. He hit for big power this year, 17 home runs to be exact, and gets on base at a very solid clip. The big thing holding him back is his 30 rated speed. He doesn't have a big arm, but has nice instincts that make up for it on the field. I think Lipschitz is going to end up becoming a second baseman, to be honest with you guys. He played a lot of third base in college. He was originally actually a shortstop, but the whole speed and range thing, and he doesn't have a big arm, so that kind of held him back a bit. So they tried him at third base. He looked pretty good at third base, but I think he just looks to be a prototypical second baseman in his future. But we'll have to see on that. I personally see him competing. Yeah, I personally see him competing for the second base job in the future. He's going to be a big bat, and you don't get a whole lot of big hitting second basemen. So if he could become a big hitting second baseman, that'd be great. He reminds me a lot of Cody Clemens, who the Tigers drafted last year, who's most likely going to play third or second base for the Tigers. It'll be an interesting competition between both Lipschitz and Clemens. The next pick in round 4 went to UCLA junior Ryan Kreidler. He is yet another infielder, but everything about Kreidler's profile is a little bit odd. He was said to be one of the best defensive infielders in the draft. He can play all over the diamond and profiles as a plus shortstop. But here's the kicker. He's 6'4". If you guys follow baseball, which I'm sure all of you do, you know that middle infielders are prototypically short to, mid-sized people. You don't see very many 6'4" shortstops and second basemen. And that's exactly what Kreidler is. He only weighs about 195 pounds, so he's pretty lanky. He's just a tall, lanky dude that plays short and second base. He's not going to be a big hitter in the major leagues, at least that's what people say, but he does have the potential to have some power. I mean, obviously at 6'4", 195, there's not too much of it yet. But if he's 6'4" and he's only 195 pounds, there's plenty of room for improvement in strength. So here's another thing that I found quite comical. The big player comp that I've seen floating around Twitter, that I actually came up with watching him play, is Don Kelly. Yes, that Don Kelly. Which I can actually totally see. Both were freaky tall and could play all infield positions and play them well. I really hope he turns out, because if we could get another Donnie Kelly baby in the Detroit Tigers uniform, that would be amazing. Kelly was absolutely great for the Tigers. Everybody loved Kelly. I mean, he was a great clubhouse presence, which I've heard that Kreidler is. He's just a friendly guy, and he was so dependable. You could put him at any position, and he would at least be average there. He would be average to above average at any position. So it was really a cool pick, I believe, in the 4th round from the Tigers. I really like Kreidler, and I can't wait to can't wait to see how he plays. Hold on one second. Just gotta find my notes here. I lost them for a bit. But yeah, Kreidler's going to be a guy that I can't wait to watch progress through the minor leagues. I think he might take a little bit longer because he still needs some developing with the bat. But once he's ready, I really do think he'll be a solid major league player. So next, in the 5th round of the Tigers draft, they picked outfielder Bryant Packard of Coastal Carolina University. Packard can essentially be described as a hitter. I think a hitter is the best way to describe him. And he's a very good one at that. He's not a good defender. He's not fast, and he has a bad arm. But the man can flat out rake. I would not be shocked if they move him to first base at some point, but I don't think that's a big deal because he hits just like a first baseman should. They